All right, everyone. What is up? We're going to do some minor sound checks, that kind of stuff. Am I vertical right now? How do I fix that? That's weird. I don't know. I look vertical right now, which is weird. Maybe if I push this button, does that do it? No. Says I can't fix it. So today we're going to be talking all about your budget, how to figure out how much house to buy, all that kind of fun stuff. Now, every single time we do these lives, we are going to relax a little bit for the first couple of minutes, let people join. So, for those of you that are tuning in later, you're going to want to fast forward to after we block out the screen for a little bit. So, for now, everyone, we're going to take just a 3-5 minute break, something like that. And if you have any questions, now is the time. The whole purpose of lives is to get your questions out there and to help you guys, right? So if you have any questions about real estate, please ask them away. We're going to have, I'm not sure if the chat's showing up right now or not. I think if I push that, yeah, there we go. So any questions you guys have, now is going to be the time. We're going to give everyone, again, another 3-5 minutes to ask questions and kind of trickle in. And we'll be getting started here in just a few minutes. So hang tight if you're here live. Give us, again, probably until like, let's say 7:39, 7:40 for Western time. And we'll get started here. And for everyone live, you can fast forward. But past that, I love to know how is everyone. I love to know what's going on in all of your lives and what's going on in your world of real estate. So we'll circle back in just a couple minutes, and then we'll get started. All right, everyone. Well, that was awkward. It looks like we had technical issues and no one could hear me. So, I don't know. I guess do we start over? What do we do now? First of all, how is everyone? Is everyone watching? Everyone good? All right. So, I guess what we do is we start over. I mean, what do you guys think? I know somehow I don't know what happened in between starting out and like that pause. For some reason it hit the mute button on my microphone. So we're gonna watch that better in the future. So that is really a bummer. And I don't know how we're gonna edit that for the folks watching in post. We're gonna have to put some notes in for everyone. I guess for everyone we're gonna say sound turns on at 35 minutes. What a mess. What a mess. That's embarrassing. Okay. Well, I guess we start over and put notes out for people. So, welcome everyone yet again to the Mimecast, where I talk and make no sounds for 35 minutes. We're going to be talking about what you need to buy a home. So, where do we begin then? Let's see here. I got my rhythm all messed up. We were doing so good. I felt like stuff was going so smooth. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Brian, the Beekeeping Realtor. And we're going to be talking all about understanding your home buying budget. Okay. Now, your budget's going to have a lot of aspects. It's going to vary a lot. There's a ton of programs, but we're going to try to keep things relatively simple. And when it comes to those specific programs, you're going to have to look into the other videos, because we're not going to dig in like too deep into like green mortgages or reverse mortgages or FHA, that kind of stuff. We'll do a little bit more FHA on this one than normal, but we're not going to be really doing a deep dive into the specific programs as much as just talking about how to budget, how much stuff costs, how much you should set aside, all that kind of stuff. So, I guess we just jump right in. I apologize if my mojo is a little off. We were like 90%. We were 90% done, and the sound wasn't working. So let's get started, I guess. So step number one, when buying a home, you want to be looking at three main things. First is going to be your down payment. Then there's going to be your closing costs, and then there's going to be your monthly mortgage payment, okay? Now, when it comes to your down payment, there's going to be a bunch of different percentages that you could work with, and I'm pretty passionate about when it comes to your down payment. A lot of people believe that you really need a 20% down payment. The problem with that is that, back in the day, prices went up only 2%, 4% per year. So if you're saving up a decent amount of money, you could really make ground every year by saving. Since COVID, we've been seeing more like 6 to 20% price increases year over year. So trying to save for a big down payment while you are at the same time paying your rent and the prices are skyrocketing, you can really lose ground. So for most people, I believe it's better to do a small down payment. Usually it's 3.5% for FHA, 5% for conventional. But if you can put together the 20%, that's awesome too. But I really don't want to see you trying to save up 20%, because that tends to get you further behind than if you did a modest down payment. For closing costs, you're going to be typically looking between 2 and 5% of the purchase price of the home. Out here, it's probably closer to 2 is more typical, 2 or 3, but it can be as high as 5 depending on what you're buying and what you have going on. Closing costs are there to pay for your insurance and taxes and fees and HOA and all that junk when you buy your home that has nothing to do with the realtors or anything like that. It's just the cost of buying a home. And last and most importantly, we want to be looking at your monthly mortgage payments. Now, when it comes to your monthly mortgage payments, I want you to be so careful, okay? What is happening a lot right now is that people are getting in escrow and closing, and they're told their monthly payments a certain amount. They pay that amount for the whole year. And then at the end of the year, they're finding out they actually owe a lot of money because the insurance and taxes and other things were calculated incorrectly. So when you're buying a home, you need to be very careful when you're talking to your insurance folks, when you're talking to your title folks, and make sure they triple check all of their numbers and make sure that nothing's going to change. Now, this is happening much more commonly on single family homes than it is on condos or, multifamily homes. So especially if you're buying a single family home, you need to really watch your payment that you're going to be using here. Now, when it comes to your down payment, again, 3 to 20% is going to be typical. Closing costs, again, we can't do too much about that. But the big mystery for most people is going to be, what the heck is your monthly payment going to be, right? So when it comes to your monthly payment, let's share a screen here. We're going to be a lot smoother this time because we have a little bit of practice, right, guys? Good grief. Anyways, when it comes to your monthly payment, there's really nothing better than Realtor.com right now. You can do a couple different calculators, but Realtor.com is great. So, the big things you want to look at is, let's say that we are looking to buy a 91320, right? And we take a look at this single family home that looks great. Now, what tends to happen is people see this and they go, oh, it's $7,500 a month. And there's a little pencil here. You really want to pay attention to this little pencil. The little pencil is a big deal, okay? Now, when we click on that, if it'll work, it does this drop-down menu. This payment that it's showing is awesome if you can get that 7.1% rate. Is that sharing my screen properly? Yeah. If you can get that 7.1% rate with a 20% down. But if you can't, you need to change these numbers, okay? So most folks, for buying their first home, are doing like 3.5% down. And if we hop on over to smarthomemortgage.net, this tells us what the rates are at right now. Right now, we're looking at about 7.28%. So when we actually change these numbers to be what they should be for the typical buyer, first-time buyer, it's closer to $10,000 a month. Not quite, but pretty close, $9,700. So you want to make sure that you're filling in this information properly so you can get a good sense of the monthly payment. But that being said, if you make sure that these numbers are correct, this is usually a really good reflection of what the price is going to be. So, as we're looking at this, you want to make sure, whether it's Zillow or Realtor.com or wherever, that you have that info filled out, or else you're going to get some real sticker shock when you go to buy your home. Now, when it comes to buying, where do we go here? Let's get rid of this guy. When it comes to buying, you want to try to keep your monthly payment around 1/3 of your monthly income or less. Less is always better. You can qualify for as high as, I think it's 50% of your income as a mortgage payment if you have no debt. But you need to keep in mind that that's just your mortgage payment. You may also have repairs and utilities and all that kind of stuff. And when you take those into account, if you're already paying half before those, that's going to be a really tough bill to take care of. There are some folks that are in like the luxury end and buying really high-end homes for millions of dollars that can get away with it. But that's typically because they have a lot more money, and having only 50% to live on isn't as big of a deal for them. For most normal folks, you really can't, even if the bank lets you go over 50%, 50% is a real stretch for most people. Now then, let's see. I'm gonna sneeze, sorry. So any questions about the overview, buying costs, down payments, closing costs, that kind of stuff? Anybody? Okay. So let's jump into the next part, which is going to be assessing your financial health. Okay, guys? The better your financial health, your financial situation is, the better your terms are going to be. And when we say terms, we're talking your rates, how much you need to put down, all of that kind of stuff. Okay. You can, I believe, get a home with a credit score as low as 550. Is it 540? I think that's the lowest you can be to qualify. Most loan programs really won't help you unless you're over 650. And you also have to keep in mind on the other end of the spectrum, if your credit score is over 800, 800 is the max. Anything over 800, nothing happens. You don't get any more benefits. Okay. So 800 is going to be the perfect score where you get the best rates and all the coolest stuff. If you have a credit score of, I don't know, 820, 810, those points do no extra things for you. So first of all, you want to figure out what the heck credit score is. For most people, you can access that through your credit cards or through your bank. And you want to do everything you can to get that credit score up. We're going to want to pay off cards, but don't close the cards, right? Keep your monthly payments taken care of. We want to see you doing everything you can to make sure your payments are on time, that you're paying stuff off, and that you're generally financially healthy. The next big thing is going to be your debt to income ratio. Now, your debt to income ratio is a huge deal, guys. Okay. When we're buying, they will typically let you only have 50% of your monthly income be your monthly bills. We're talking car payments, we're talking credit cards, we're talking student loans, all that kind of stuff. Okay. You want to make sure that your total monthly obligations are not over 50%. Now, that's going to be a big deal because when we hop over to our home affordability calendar here, calculator, sorry, not calendar, window, this guy, share. We're going to look at two different examples. In this first example, let's go back. We had this all figured out and done, but now I got to redo it. So we're going to look at two different situations. We're going to look at buyer one and buyer two. Both buyers make $100,000. Let's say they're both going to do $60,000 down. Now, buyer one has $0 of debt. Buyer two has $1,000 of monthly debt. Now, if we figure out the home price range for both of those, for the person that has $0 of monthly payments debt, they can afford somewhere between $400 and $536. For someone with the $1,000 a month, let's say you got two cars or something going on, one really nice car, they can only afford $300 to $420. That's almost $100,000 less of house just because they have $1,000 a month bill. Okay. So what's going on is when they're looking at like, what's your total monthly payment maximum to be a third? So for these folks that are making 100 grand, they can only afford, give or take, what is that, like 2,000 some odd dollars a month? Not quite $3,000 a month, as their monthly debt load, their monthly payments. When they have $1,000 of cars, that takes them from not quite 3,000 to not quite 2,000, which decimates how much home they can buy. So having cars, having monthly payments you have to pay absolutely destroys how much you can buy. So if you can help it, if you got a car that's like, paid off but getting kind of old, buy the home. Buy the home before you upgrade the car. And that's also something that happens a lot while we're in escrow, is that people will buy a new car or something like that while we're in escrow. They don't think it's a big deal, but that new debt they just took out makes it so they're not able to close anymore. So you want to be very, very mindful of your debt that you have, your monthly payments. You want to try to get those down, but also don't close, got dust in here, but also don't close your credit cards. Keep the credit card accounts open because that keeps your credit score up. So you want to be very, very mindful of your debt to income ratios. That can really mess you up or can really help you. Let's get rid of this guy again. And then Yeah, so that's going to be the biggest things about your credit scores and your financial health, okay? Any questions about that before we get moving on? See nothing going on so far. So let's talk about budgeting for a home purchase. Now, when we're setting our budget, you want to think about how much can you afford monthly, realistically, because like I've had lenders qualify me for amounts that I could never really pay. You know what I mean? So you want to be kind of mindful about making sure that you don't let them sucker you into payments that you can't afford. You want to take all that information that you have and you want to kind of put that into the realtor.com calculator, right? But you want to really think about your emergency fund. Like you don't want to clean out your whole savings for the down payment. You want to make sure that you have a little bit of money to save every month, maybe a little money for fun. Make sure that if something happens to you or your family, that you're not in real trouble, right? Your mortgage payments forever. You want to make sure that it's digestible. You also want to think about just the overall cost of maintaining a home. You want to think about home maintenance and property tax increases, if there are any, HOA increases. For most people, you need around 1% of your home value to be set aside for repairs every year. That's just your maintenance cost. It's about 1%. Uh, Property taxes don't usually go up in California unless you're doing some funky stuff, but the big thing that's changing for us right now is home insurance. Home insurance has been going up so much with these new regulations they passed. So, some folks are getting really caught off guard by how much more their monthly payment is. So, overall, when you're budgeting, try to be frugal. I know it's hard because we really don't want to spend all our money, but also homes are so expensive, right? But you really want to make sure you don't get into a tight spot and you don't accidentally forget that, now that you have a house, you've got to water the grass, or that now that you're the owner and not the renter, when the roof leaks, that's a $10,000 bill, right? So you want to try to keep all of those things in mind so that your budget is reasonable and something you can actually handle. So when you're buying a home, you're going to need a down payment. Okay. And if we hop back over to this guy, where did we go? To this window, share. When we hop back over to this guy. Yeah, that'll work. When we hop back over to this guy, it's a lot to pay for, right? You need a big down payment. So you do want to set up a savings account for home buying. You want to have a separate savings account that you put some money in every month and let that be your little hidey hole home down payment if you can help it. When you're serious about buying, you want to kill your debts. You want to cut down on your discretionary spending. So as much as I make fun of how much boomers say this, maybe cut back on eating out, maybe cut back on whatever you can cut back on, because you need a big down payment. A big down payment makes a big difference, right? Now, to be clear, where's the down payment part on this? Monthly payment. Yeah, so like for this house, it says you need $82,000 to close, right? So if you're doing everything right and you feel like you can't save the money, there's a couple things here. First of all, I want you to be very conscious of not getting in over your head. But there are a lot of ways that you can make this $82,000 a lot less. Now, you can't do anything about the down payment. That's going to be from the lender. Sometimes you can get a gift for a certain dollar amount from folks that can help with that. But for the most part, you're kind of on the hook for the down payment, aside from a gift from friends or family. Now, when we're talking about the estimated closing costs, people can help with that. So, for example, on this home, what I've done before with homes like this is, instead of offering 1.1 million, maybe we offer 1.14 and we ask them for $40,000 to cover the closing costs. That way, instead of needing $82,000 to close, we need only $40,000 to close. And then the next big thing is there is a thing called the housing authority. If you are low or moderate income, you qualify for help. The grants can be as much as $70,000. I want to say somewhere around $10,000 or $20,000 is more typical for most people. But the thing that a lot of my clients run into is that they're too proud. They say that, oh no, I make way too much money to be low or moderate income. But if you look here for a single person, if you're a single person buying a home, if you have $103,750 or less as your household income for 2023, you qualify for grants. You qualify for help. Okay. If it's a family of three, it's $133,000. So most working families do qualify for this assistance. Okay. If you don't, it's a bummer, but also you're doing pretty well for yourself and you probably don't need the help as much. It's only $10, $20, $30,000, right? So, but for most people, don't be afraid to ask for help and to look for moderate income programs. So let's say you make $120,000 a year. Let's say that you get, where do we go? Let's say that we get that $40,000 covered by the seller for closing costs. Well, now your down payment's practically nothing. I mean, granted, you're going to make your home price go up or your monthly payment go up a little bit. But again, I think that it is much better to have a high monthly payment than it is to have a rent situation while you're trying to save for this goalpost that goes up 5, 10, 20% every year. Okay. Let's see. Get this guy closed. Now we do want to focus on additional homeownership costs because a lot of people see their mortgage and they think they're done, but that's never the case. Okay. You're still going to have your HOA fees. You're still going to have your insurance. You're still going to have your repair costs. You're still going to have utilities. You want to be very careful of utilities. We get a lot of people that their landlords cover water because they're taking care of the grass, or maybe they're an apartment complex and it's split between a bunch of units. So you don't want to be very mindful of your utility costs. When you're buying, I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you get the utility bills from the seller so you can get a good idea of what the typical fees every month are. And you typically want to set aside 1% every year just for repairs. That's going to be covering your roof, your HVAC, your plumbing, all that big stuff. Because whenever one of those big items go on you, it's usually like $10,000 to $20,000 to get it fixed. So, those aren't going to go every day. But when we think about the big items, which is like, again, plumbing, roofing, electric, those would be the three. While they do last every 20 or 30 years, you have three of them, right? So every 30 years, you're looking at like 40 to 60 grand, plus all the little stuff, making sure your carpet's updated, making sure that you're fixing all the sheetrock holes that something whacks the wall and pokes holes in, right? I mean, so you want to be very mindful of having extra money left over to take care of all of those little things that you're not thinking about when you're just looking at the realtor.com page. Now, when you're thinking about managing and making a budget, there's all kinds of tools that you can do. I really do recommend that you have something to keep track, though. Have some kind of tool, whether it's like, what's it called? I think it's Mint is one of the personal ones, or whatever system that you have. Make sure you're tracking your budget and you're going through and being really careful with how much you're spending, how much you're earning, and trying to tackle this whole thing with a plan of attack rather than just winging it and hoping that you get there. Okay. And there's no harm in going to a lot of different workshops like this one and others to look at other things that can help you with your home buying experience, especially first-time buyer grants or buyer grants in general. Those are going to be probably your biggest help. Okay. So anyways, guys, in conclusion, we talked about understanding your costs, assessing your health, setting a realistic budget, and planning for the unexpected. We talked about more or less everything you need to know in buying. I think some of the biggest surprises we've covered here that a lot of people don't know. So now is time for the Q&A session. Should have been a while ago. Again, I apologize for the sound situation. I don't know what happened. My mic did weird things and for some reason muted itself, and I don't know why that did that. But now it's time for the Q&A. There's only, it looks like, 4 folks hanging out. So does anyone have any questions? We can hang out for another minute or two. And if nobody has anything to say, add, or change, we'll be all wrapped up for today. All right, guys. Well, it was a real pleasure. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you know what to do. Call Castro. I'll talk to you guys next time.